most welcome. Thank you for joining us. And let me start with a personal note. Whoever listened to music and saw my dancing beforehand, I don't know whether I got some inputs that I should learn a little bit more, but you know, it's a joke. Dear friends, our guest today, Miss Lisa-Marie Fassl, co-founder and CEO of Female Founders based in Vienna, Austria. Lisa, good day to you. Most welcome.
Hello, hi.
How are you doing, Lisa?
Very good. Already having a super busy week, and I feel that October is just crazy on every level. So we can't complain about being bored.
Isn't that right? And we are in Tuesday afternoon, you know, so what happens by the end of the week? Will we survive?
Sometimes I really doubt it. But for now, it's going quite well, next to construction sites that are happening right in front of my window and all the other things that are going on. But well, let's see it the positive way, because I'm trying to be an optimistic person, because it's good when there's a lot of things happening, because we're here to do something, right?
Right, Lisa, it's the only right way to go. You know, we have to just push forward. And I wanted to ask you, first of all, you are based in Vienna. Many of us see this as a very, very unique, beautiful city to visit, but you are living over there. So tell me your perspective on your city. Is it also the same if you are living there?
Good question. So I have to say that I'm a big fan of Ljubljana. So I love being there. I think you have some amazing restaurants and great wine in Slovenia. Probably even better than our Austrian ones, but don't tell anyone. So what's Vienna like living here? I have to say that I'm not originally from Vienna. So I grew up in the southeastern part of Austria, Burgenland, so actually close to Slovenia and Hungary, and moved here like 6 years ago. Because what's definitely cool in Vienna is that the startup ecosystem is growing. And basically Vienna definitely is Austria's capital, having all the political stuff. Okay, not particularly proud of politics these days as an Austrian, but politicians here, all the startup ecosystem, a lot of people who want to do something. So you really feel the energy, and also, and that's what I love about the city, a very international vibe. And also obviously the quality of life is very good, and it's extremely beautiful.
Oh, dear friends, now you can hear really honest thoughts from Lisa about Vienna. I'm sure we will go over there. By the way, how much is coffee these days in Vienna? Coffee with milk, let's say.
Good question. As I don't drink coffee, I hope that I'm at least somewhat correct. I guess it depends. So first district Viennese coffee houses, you would probably pay €6, I guess, when you go to the really famous ones, Landmann, etc. But the good news is that the cake is still moderately cheap. So maybe just focus on the cake and don't go for the coffee. That's what I do. And for our, let's say, more new-ish, hipsterish places, I would say it's something between €3 and €4, definitely. So prices are also increasing in Vienna, unfortunately.
Yeah, c'est la vie. It's a global disease everywhere, but we have to live on these waves and at least take the sweets. You are right. So, dear friends, dear Lisa, let me read the invite for all of us on your background, on your business. You are the CEO, co-founder of Female Founders. Company offers leading European ecosystem for entrepreneurial women, solving the gender gap issue by providing access to funding for female-led ventures. That is my sentence. Now, Lisa, you take it from here forward.
Thanks.
What is your business about? Explain it to somebody who is maybe only 50% familiar with your niche, or 10%, you know, the basic points.
Yeah, love to do that. So we are really driven by this big vision of, you know, helping women to become part of the tech ecosystem. Why is this important? Because when it comes to technology, when we talk about innovation and also digitalization, it's obviously about designing our future, our common future. And we think that it's just not the best way, considering all of humanity, when our future is created by a very homogeneous group of people, which is currently white men coming from mostly rich, well-educated backgrounds, and they are creating the technology that we will all be using, and they're therefore designing how we will live in 5, 10, and even 50 years from now. And to make sure that we keep living a nice life and also have social and economic stability, we believe that it's really, really crucial to bring diversity to technology and innovation. For our case, yes, we are focusing on women because we see that this is the biggest minority of people, which is not the case that we're a minority because, we make up a bit more than half of the world's population. But still, we see this massive underrepresentation and some disadvantages for women, especially when it comes to business. So we are really driven by this vision of having a positive impact on society, but also on the economy, meaning that working with female entrepreneurs and female talent really leverages a potential that is currently being unused. So there's also a big market opportunity out there. Otherwise, it would not be a business. Let's be very honest about this. And having said that, we're now a community of 43,000 people. So it's really 4-3. From all over Europe, like really ranging from the UK to Portugal, Spain, Italy, Croatia, even Russia, and then also to the Nordic countries. So it's really a pan-European approach that we're following with the 2 big focuses, as you mentioned. So one, really helping female adventurers to get funding, which is one of the biggest issues for them at the moment, and generally bringing more women to the tech and innovation space, also as employees.
Okay, and these 2 channels, these are considered to be your value added, but also your products, correct?
Exactly. So we have 2, let's say, flagship programs. One really is an acceleration program for startups. So it's 3 months where we work with 10 companies from across Europe and help them to become ready for investment and also to find investors. And we are pretty proud to say that these startups are doing really good. So last week, a 1.4 million funding round or seed round was announced from one of our fintech companies. And next week, we're going to see a 1.5 million funding round for an HR company, which is demonstrating that there is this opportunity of connecting business and also leveraging this potential by working with people who are usually underrepresented in that space. And then there's also another flagship program that is really focused on female leadership. And besides this, we help other companies to build a culture that is inclusive and that attracts diverse talent. So there's also a consulting part related to what we are doing, and obviously also some events to really gain momentum and to show why this is important and shine a light on the still not so great situation when it comes to diversity in tech.
Okay, for somebody who is now listening to us, or she will listen the recordings later, can you please just guide us with step-by-step approach? You know, she has an excellent idea. That's step number 1. Mm-hmm. What follows then?
So the idea, as we probably all know, is basically worth nothing if it's just the idea. So it's really about executing
but true.
It. Yeah. So and this is something that we tell founders quite often, please also start talking about your business ideas, because the chance that someone else on this globe, and we are living in this hyper-connected world, is 100%. So it's all about getting feedback and trying to create meaningful products, yes, but also being really good in executing it, because we also see a lot of startups that are really stuck in this idea phase. So they think about the idea, try to optimize and perfectionize it, which is unnecessary. So it's really about going out there, testing, collecting feedback, and improving.
And you are already there? Is this still step number 1 or already? Yeah?
Personally, I would say we're there when it comes to finding product market fit. So we've really started to do this as a business right before the Corona crisis. So in March 2020, we are now a team of 15 people. So we really started as 3 people 1.5 years ago. And have been doing quite well, surprisingly well, to be very honest. But still, we get a lot of requests, and we're really trying to focus on the things that we want to do, where we on the one hand said, yes, make money with it, but also feel it's really worth investing the time, because we don't want to do things where we feel they're just nice to have, but don't really make sense for anyone and are not adding positive value to economy and society.
Results matters for sure. Yeah. Can you please share with us also the funding part of your work? How do you fund? I mean, obviously this is important issue as well.
Yeah. So generally, the funding part, when it comes to female-led startups, there's just a big gap. So when we look at the venture capital landscape, so really about professional investors investing in startup companies, we see that 93% of the money is going to all male teams. So meaning that only 7% are left for female-only teams and mixed teams, which is a huge underrepresentation. And this is mostly not related to the fact that there are no female founders or co-founders out there, or that they are not interested in getting the money, but it's really about perception and biases that are here in place on both sides. We have to also say that. So it's not only the investors having those biases and these misconceptions, but it's also the women. For us ourselves, so we are really bootstrapped. So we've received some public grants because Austria is really good in public grants, just promoting this slightly here. And
yes, you are. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, you know, I take this as congratulations, but I think there's also some negative aspects to a lot of public funding, because if there's a lot of public funding, there's no need for the private market to get really active, and especially the governments don't really have an incentive of stimulating private markets. And I'm saying this because I'm an extremely political person, so I'm having a lot of fun these days. And I also have the honor of advising our government actually on policies related to startups and entrepreneurship. And this is a discussion that we're having quite often, because we see that Austria is an insanely rich country, but only 1/3 of the money that Austrians have is actually actively being invested and not somewhere on bank accounts, which is insane, especially when we, right? So when we look at inflation, it's crazy. It's crazy. So we are very risk averse as Austrians, unfortunately.
Thank you, Lisa. Let me read also the second chapter, which you actually started it yourself. Lisa is a startup advisor at Federal Ministry of Digital Economic Affairs and vice president of Austrian Angel Investors Associations. Now, going with that last one, Austrian Angel Investor Association, what can you share with us on that?
So this sort of has been my home turf, because I've been the managing director of the organization for more than 4 years. And it was probably my most international job, so to say, because naturally, as a small country, you need to work with other countries. That's at least my perception, and the idea of, from my perspective, the European Union to really foster cross-border activities. And what we're doing there is we're a network of angel investors. It's 200 people, 220 people at the moment, who are investing their private taxed money into young companies, because they think that it makes more sense to do this and to stimulate economy by doing this and to generate jobs than having it on a bank account where it's losing its worth almost every day. And I don't know how familiar everyone is with this topic of business angels, so I'm just going to explain it super briefly.
Please do. I think less than average on total,
Okay, good. So business angels, as mentioned, private people, it's their own money that they've made, that they've earned by selling companies, by having management positions, by inheriting it. And they are mostly motivated by 3 things. So on the one hand side, yes, it's about a financial return. But on the other hand side, and it's even more important, it's really about working with young entrepreneurs, not necessarily young in terms of age, but especially first-time founders who have hardly any experience in starting companies. So what they do is they give them the money, yes, but they are also their mentors, and they're especially here to open the network and to help the entrepreneurs to get access to other investors, to potential clients, and to basically spread the word about the business. So it's really a very hands-on activity, and a lot of angel investors are working super actively with those young companies. And this is what I like about this, because my perception always was that angel investors are extremely rich people who just want to make money and go for the return on investment. But actually, it's really about having fun with what they're doing and giving something back and learning something new, but not doing this themselves, but being part of something and of some cool ideas and being part of creating the future, which now leads back to the initial statement.
Perfect. Is there any umbrella organization of this nature in Europe or even wider?
There is. So there are a couple of organizations, and also within specific countries, there are also smaller organizations. So there's also one for Slovenia, which you probably know, which is Business Angels of Slovenia. And yes, there is a European umbrella organization. It's called the European Business Angel Network, and they're also especially very active in advocating in Brussels why entrepreneurship and why angel investing is so important. Because after all, angel investing and this early stage money is the #1 funding source for young enterprises in Europe. So they are the very first believers in new ideas and actually make it possible that success stories like, let's say, N26, Skype, or Flixbus, for example, are actually really out there and growing and get the chance to actually become these kind of companies.
Okay, my last question before I go to the chat box, Lisa, is that sentence. You are also a startup advisor at the Federal Ministry for Digital Economic Affairs. What can you share with us on that? Well, what's your input on that?
Well, I can share a lot. So please stop me, because I could talk about these political things for quite some time. Because, well, I've always been like in the positions that I've had before, especially at the Angel Network. We've always tried to encourage the government to do stuff and to improve the conditions for startups in Austria, because we always said these will be at one point the backbones of our business. And we were extremely unsuccessful. Like, honestly speaking, no one was listening to us, because the perception of politicians, and that might be the same situation in Slovenia and a lot of countries in Europe, is that startups and innovation and tech, of course, is important, but in terms of quantity of people, and therefore in terms of votes, this is a small group that no one's interested in. But what they are not seeing is the potential of how big this community can actually become when you have the right framework. Let's take, for example, Portugal, where this happened perfectly fine, or France, who is investing hundreds of millions of euros in the tech ecosystem, because they see that these companies will generate jobs in the future. And this is a discussion that we're constantly having with the government, and we're especially fostering 3 to 4 topics. Like, one really is give incentives to angel investors to make sure that all this money out there is not losing its worth every day on bank accounts, but it's actually being brought back into the economy. The other thing is stimulating the venture capital community, because there is none in Austria, let's face it. And the third thing really is to make it easier and cheaper to start businesses, because setting up a business in Austria is about, considering the costs for notary, lawyer, etc., 10 to 15K, which is super expensive, especially when we compare it to Estonia, for example, where with the e-residency and the whole digital approach to this is a couple of €100, and it takes you a couple of hours. And in Austria, it takes you 2 weeks to set up a business if you're fast. So there's a lot of ways to improve this, to make it more digital. And also this is obviously connected to making Austria as a whole more attractive to, well, people who start companies, entrepreneurs, and also those tech people who are creating our future. And I would say right now it's not as attractive. But the good news is we have 2 unicorns now. So this is sort of gaining momentum. And those 2 unicorns have a higher valuation than companies that are listed on the Vienna Stock Exchange. So government and also society and media is realizing that those companies create value and they create jobs, and they are becoming important players.
My goodness, very nicely put, Lisa. Thank you very much for this
you.
part. Before I really, Matit, sorry for that, I'll put one more question and then we go to the chat box. We never talk about politics, but I'll ask you this anyway. What's the relation between your business and politics? Not because you personally said that you are somehow involved, but, you know, female founders, how should I put? Yeah, female-led ventures, politics. I sense there is a line. Can you confirm that, or my assumption is wrong?
That's a perfectly valid assumption. And one thing that I have to say before I answer that question more properly. So I myself am not a politician, and there's no political party that I'm part of, and probably ever will be, due to a lot of reasons. But I think it's just important to stay neutral and to foster conversations with almost all political parties, because, well, it's just important to foster dialogue, and that's what democracies are about. Last time I checked, sometimes you may doubt this. So I think there is a very strong connection between this whole topic of female empowerment and diversity and politics. Because honestly speaking, and now really seeing it from economic terms, that's sort of a storyline that we've been using in the past weeks, especially. So the role of governments is to make sure that markets are working. when we look at the empowerment of women and when we look at the, sorry, someone's waving at me. Oh yeah, they are moving my box.
Now we have, dear friends, once again proved that we are going out live.
Yes, yes, you definitely are. Okay. Oh, nice. They just wanted to try if the door is working. I'm wondering what they mentioned, how I got in here. Well, sorry. So I think the markets are not working in that case, because obviously private markets and companies are not managing, for whatever reason, that there is a bigger representation of women along all management positions, and especially when we talk about big companies, when it comes to boards, etc. And when we talk about female entrepreneurship and female investing, obviously, there's also a strong need in the market. And one topic that is obviously very heavily connected to this topic of empowering women is the situation of childcare and how this is being financed, if it's accessible, whatever. And I really hate having this conversation in 2021 and talking about the missed opportunities when it comes to fostering women. But obviously that's unfortunately still a case. So we're in quite intense discussions with the Austrian government, also to some extent with the European Commission, what we can do. But I think a lot of policies that are being made and a lot of projects that are being started are nice to have, and they are heavily funded, but not creating the impact that they should actually have, because maybe we're just not having the right conversation.
So the short answer is yes, and the second part of the answer, it's we should fight every day, you know, forward and forward, I guess, yeah. But you put it very nicely. It's 23 past the hour, dear friends. We were a little bit longer today with Lisa, but let's go to the chat box. Now, Lisa, I see 3-4 questions. I'll try to be short and quick, and I ask you to do the same. Franz is with us. Hi, Franz. Women are in majority in educational system, public administration, juridical system in Slovenia as well. What can you say about that? Short answer, Lisa.
I'm bad with short answers, but I'm trying. Yes, that's exactly the thing, that women go to these positions and these areas that are considered safe and not very risk savvy, and not especially entrepreneurial, because it's just easier to combine the reality of life of women, also talking about care responsibilities. And I'm not saying that this is bad, but I think that women make great entrepreneurs, great leaders, and great decision makers, which we're seeing every day when we look at specific countries and when we look at companies' performance. Because companies with diverse teams, and I'm really talking about diversity and not all male or all female, but really a mix of genders and a mix of competencies, they are just outperforming. And I think this is something that we should realize. And therefore make it more attractive for women to also go into other areas. Finishing that question.
Madeline is with us from Cape Town. So she's leading an organization called Leading Women of Africa. We work with women entrepreneurs across Africa, same like everywhere else. One of the challenges faced is access to business finances. This is a good point, Lisa, right? Yep. Is the female founders you're talking about only for Europe, and it can be extended to Africa? So copy paste of your know-how. How is that possible? Is it?
It definitely is. We are now about to set up programs for other accelerators as well. And we've always had quite a strong interest in Africa, because we think that there's just also so much potential there, and that women are the ones who are really building up economies to some extent and who will do amazing things. So I would love to extend the program to Africa and see what we can do here, especially as we're in the same time zone anyway. So I think it naturally makes more sense for Europeans to also work with Africans and not always look into the US or look to Asia.
Okay, great. So Madeline, I will be sharing your website, your details with Lisa, and you'll do your follow-up later on. Martin, thank you so much. France. Hi, Martin. Good to see you. Sonia is with us. Perhaps you would be interested in the AEIOU of leadership model, which includes Ubuntu. This is a reply to Madeline, right? I guess.
It seems like it.
Yeah. That's it, Matic? We have no further question? Okay. Lisa, no worries about that. I have plenty of them. myself. So, I mean, there are a lot of us here based in Slovenia, in Austria, but there are also people from elsewhere. So you are a pan-European activity. So what do you say to people who might fit to your agenda, yet they're from Asia, America, Africa? What do you say to them?
So please reach out, because I think that collaboration across countries, no matter if it's only Europe or if it's also other countries in this planet, just makes a lot of sense. And I think we can learn a lot from each other. And also, I think it's really about opening up new markets, because especially when we talk about female entrepreneurs, there is a tendency towards thinking small and not thinking super big, and not thinking about other countries, and especially not thinking about entering other continents. So I think this collaboration and this connection could really have an impact to really open the horizon for a lot of people, and giving them the impression that they can also do business outside of their own countries, and therefore be successful across the globe and really build very cool companies.
Perfect. There you go. Also, I need to say for all of our friends, you were hard to catch these days due to a very good event that you had, or you are still having. I'm not sure, but can you share with us some outputs of that event? Maybe it can be also interesting for others to hear.
Yeah. So the event that we are talking about happened last week, and it was really focused on the private capital market, and making sure that we actually have active private capital markets, to make sure that we're moving away from public funding towards exactly this private money funding innovation. Because when we look at the budgets of our economies and our countries, we see that it's just not sufficient and not sustainable when everything is actually paid for by the government, especially when there's so much other money around that is now being invested in real estate, other things, stocks, crypto, whatever. So the outcome definitely was that there is a big need to really work with each other across the capital market, like really different financial stakeholders, like early stage investors, private equity, stock exchange, etc., to connect and to make sure that actually companies get funding from the very first funding until the IPO, and that this can happen within Europe, so that the companies and well, the value that they're generating can actually stay in Europe. And we try to communicate this to our Minister of Finance, who is also the one in charge for tax reliefs. But unfortunately, this happened last Wednesday, and I think you all know what happened after this last Wednesday. So I think he was pretty chilled, although a strange political situation was going on. But we're trying to push this topic even further.
There is no right time for that, I guess. And c'est la vie.
True.
Philo is with us from Malta. Hi, Philo. Good to see you. Lisa, do you provide funding to startups only, or also to businesses led by women that want to innovate, digitalize, and internationalize? Sorry for that.
So for us, it's really about scalability aspect. So it should be companies that can and want to grow. It does not need to be specified as a startup, because I think that there is no proper and common definition of startup. So it's really about having an international, scalable, and therefore also digital business model. But feel free to reach out. Also, I have to say that I won't respond to any emails or any further emails this week, because I'm already very far behind. But please feel free to do so. And then we can discuss your specific situation, how and if we can help.
Philo is also having a sub question. Do you also help in matchmaking and creating partnerships between female entrepreneurs?
Between the companies that are already working with us and are part of our accelerator program, yes, there we do this quite actively. For companies that are not part of the accelerator programs, we offer a couple of events where people can participate and meet and interact.
Thank you, Lisa.
Totally welcome.
Franz is asking you, Lisa, about tax policy, which is also obviously important for businesses. Are there additional tax reliefs planned on salaries on year basis?
So generally, yes, there is something planned when it comes to general tax reliefs in Austria, which is a couple of hundreds of euros. There is a discussion about having specific tax reliefs for newly founded businesses, especially for the first employees, to make sure that they can actually grow, because the amount, well, of taxes and additional costs for employment are just extraordinarily high in Austria. And something that we're working super actively and super intensively on is actually tax reliefs when it comes to employee stock option programs. Because right now, and this is one of the biggest issues for startups across Europe, you need these stocks and this participation in companies to actually attract talent and retain talent for a longer time and to help you to build up the companies. What's the situation in Austria currently is that when you give an employee stocks in your company, they need to pay taxes at the moment where they receive the stock, although the company is worth nothing and just has a valuation on paper. So we're trying to foster a model where you just pay taxes in the case of an exit case and where you have the same taxation as a founder or investor to make sure that everyone is paying the same and has the same benefits.
Lisa, it's 31 minutes past the hour in my watch, 32 actually already. It happened so fast, so it meant that you are really a very nice guest, and Katsuei's son from Tokyo is saying, agreeing as well. Pleased to hear that. I really thank you for your input on this session. I appreciate it as well, and I will do my follow-up emailing. We will leave you in peace this week, but later on you might get some emails from our friends here in the room. Also, Lisa, before we go off, normally I ask the final question, which is a little bit more personal. Obviously, you are very much into this line of business, but once you are leaving your room or your computer, what's Lisa about? What do you do?
It might be obvious because I already mentioned it. I love traveling, I love food, and I love wine. So that's what I enjoy doing, and I also love cooking. And I generally like things that are related to doing stuff outdoors. Well, it's actually about the nice things in life, like good food, nice people, nice locations. That's me in a nutshell.
I could just say amen, and comma, right? Thank you very much, Lisa, for being our guest. The last 15 seconds are yours. Do you want to share anything at the end with our friends here?
Yeah, just one thing that I'm saying quite often. So if you're wondering what can you do if you're not an entrepreneur yourself, or not active politically or whatever, just make sure that you're supporting people in what they're doing and that you don't tell people why things do not work, but why they could work, and tell them how you can actually help them to become successful.
Oh my goodness, this is exactly my thought, Lisa. You know, I always hear the big guys saying the problem is, you know, and then you see the bullet points, you know. Nobody talks from the other way around. That's really a good point. Thank you very much, Lisa. Dear friends, this was Lisa-Marie Fassl, CEO, co-founder of Female Founders. I will send a nice follow-up email with her details tonight. Let's all behave very nicely, leave her alone this week, but from Monday onwards, you can do whatever you wish. I have two more things and then we go off the line. First of all, today I get a wonderful news that our regular participant, Vinayak Hajare, has become a member of the governing board of the Council of EU Chamber of Commerce in India. So now you know that we have a very nice channel over there, and let's use it the best possible way. And secondly, as I usually finish, our guest of honor next week, this time will be Justina Starushka, CEO at company Nando, based in Kaunas, Lithuania. You will get a nice invite from my side very soon. Until next Tuesday, I wish you a nice day forward, and bye-bye.